Will the meeting please come to order? Hey, I'd like to welcome our members, visitors, and staff to the September 10th, 2025 meeting of the NCPRD District Advisory Committee. This meeting is convening in person and by Zoom. Please note that this meeting is being recorded. I'd like to start by doing just a quick round of introductions for the table here. My name is Sheila Shaw. I represent Sub-Area 3, and I'm the current chair.
And my name is Mark Elliott. I'm losing my voice, and I live in Sub-Area 2, and I'm vice chair.
Hi, everyone. My name is Camille Trummer. I use pronouns I, she, and her. I am a facilitator here that has been with the DAC for many months. And this is actually my last meeting because our new board chairs are so well equipped to run meetings in the future. So happy to be here and look forward to seeing you all do great work.
Paul Savas, Caucus County Commissioner and Park District Director, and I live in Sub-Area 2.
And I'm Grover Bornfeld, and I live in Sub-Area 1.
Josh Fisher, Sub-Area 4.
Lisa Beatty, Mayor of Milwaukee, and I'm in Milwaukee, which is Sub-Area 5. For many months, I have been the only rep for Milwaukee, but we have a couple of people from our Parks and Recreation Board here today, and so hopefully we will soon have a second rep from Milwaukee.
Jay Sherman, Sub-Area 2.
Continuing from Sub-Area 1.
Hi, I'm Jeanette DeCastro. I'm in Sub-Area 3. My pronouns are she and they. I'm Jessica Stead, Executive Assistant for NCPRD. And Erin Rion, Planning and Development Director for NCPRD.
Hi, everyone. I am Kia Selly. I am the NCPRD District Director.
Okay, thank you, everyone. I have listed our 3 to-dos for tonight up here, so hopefully everyone can see that. The Zoom chat is open, so all messages received through Zoom chat during this meeting will be part of the public record and attached to the meeting minutes. If you'd like to provide public comment and are attending in person, please fill out a comment card and turn it in to me. If you're attending virtually and would like to provide a public comment, please select the raise hand feature when the public comment portion of the meeting has begun, and we will call on you in the order received. We will take public comments not related to the system plan before the system plan presentation, and we will take comments about the system plan after the presentation. So let's start with a recognition of former Chair DeCastro, who was our chair for a year and a half, and she did a wonderful job with that. If other people would like to make comments.
Well, I loved working with you, Jeanette, and really appreciate the outwork that you did while you were our chair. And I'm going to miss you.
Well, thank you. And I'm not going very far. I appreciate that. Thank you all.
Or you're not leaving the DAC?
No.
Okay.
She's recognizing her service as chair.
Okay, thank
We
you.
used to talk daily.
And I also would like to acknowledge, it is not easy being chair, and thank you for doing that.
You're welcome.
Well, I'll jump in. I sincerely appreciate your service, Jeanette, Chair DeCastro. And on behalf of all of NCPRD staff and the District Advisory Committee, we have a few goodies for you this evening. Customary flowers, and then we have some NCPRD swag so that when you're not in this meeting, you can remember. Thank you very much. Gardening gloves.
Yep.
A park blanket,
Oh, nice.
a mug, and some sunglasses.
You know that I run on coffee. Thank you.
So thank you for your service.
So
It is
much.
sincerely appreciated.
Okay, thanks so much, Jeanette. Okay, so next on our agenda are approval of the minutes. We will do this. There were 2 sets of minutes. They were distributed in the packet that you received last week for your review. Are there any additions or corrections to the May 14th, 2025 minutes? Okay, there's no corrections, so I'm gonna check my little cheat sheet here, and so I say the minutes stand approved. And next, the same question, are there any additions or corrections to the July 9th meeting minutes? Okay, so the minutes stand and are approved. Next on our agenda is the bylaws update, so I'm going to turn this over to Vice Chair Elliott, but first, Member Borneville have a comment to make.
I just really want to say you guys did a great job pulling this together and communicating all the stuff that's been talked about for a long time now, but thank you for doing such a great job. And the only other thing I want to say is there was a comment about the district community center advisory board, and there's a lot of work in works, and we're going to keep growing the relationship with the Milwaukee Community Center Advisory Board. And so I think we should just table any of that conversation until all that works through, and then we can decide together what the best strategy is on that. But I do want to still put a little pin in the fact that making that change without having it come through the DAC, I think it missed an opportunity. And so in the future, I'd like to make sure things that change our structure are included, at least for information purposes before they happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Turn it over to Vice Chair Elliott.
Well, thank you, Grover. So the bylaw changes are included in this month's DAC packet, reflect changes that we discussed during our July business meeting. These changes are being recommended to modify the nomination process for recruiting new DAC members, to remove the 18 years of age requirement for DAC membership, to add the election of alternates and define their responsibilities, and to provide some clarification on DAC members attending meetings virtually. Some of you have talked to me and Sheila about some of the need to make some additional bylaws changes. And we've been thinking that perhaps a subcommittee could be helpful to create, to develop some additional changes that the DSA could consider next year. So for now, I would like to make a motion that the DAC approve the changes to the NCPRD DAC bylaws as presented, and further move that the chair establish a subcommittee to develop further bylaws edits for DAC consideration next year.
Second. Okay. Is there any discussion? Okay, those in favor of the motion, please indicate by raising your hand. 2, 3, 4, 7. Those wishing to oppose the motion?
Joel.
Oh,
He raised his hand up.
he did raise his hand, so would that be 8? Okay, and anyone opposed to the motion? And is anyone abstaining? Okay, so the motion is approved, 8-0 to 0. Okay, thank you. So next on the agenda is the district monthly report. So I am going to hand it off to Director Silly.
Thank you, Chair Shaw. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to provide this update. Tonight, I'll provide a brief overview of NCPRD achievements, progress, and upcoming activities. First, in terms of achievements, Lauren Carey, NCPRD Natural Resources Coordinator, has achieved her arborist certification with the International Society of Arboriculture. This is a significant achievement for her and a significant resource for NCPRD. And in fact, Lauren is now leading our management plan for preparing for the impacts of the emerald ash borer. It's a wood-boring beetle that impacts all ash trees. NCPRD has identified 889 ash trees on NCPRD property. And so planning, as I mentioned, is actively underway, not just within NCPRD but with our local and county and state partners. So this is a major effort. In fact, just today, I found out that one of these beetles was found in Portland. Earlier in the summer, another beetle was found in Oregon City. So it's It's just a matter of time before these beetles start infecting our trees. So I will be providing you with more information. This is a developing situation. You have a very short memo in your packet about this. But with each opportunity, whether it's the DAC meeting or whether it's a quarterly board meeting, I will be sure to keep everybody informed about our progress. Replacement of the over 30-year-old aquatic park roof is underway, ensuring many more years of service and lower maintenance costs. We're also adding safety tie-offs to that roof so that staff can safely access the roof to monitor it, clean it, and also do annual gutter maintenance. Maintenance staff have also been staying busy, keeping parks and facilities clean and safe throughout the busy summer season and implementing our reduced water usage in compliance with our budget reductions. We are actually going to be placing signs in parks over the next month to communicate that these maintenance changes are a result of budget reductions. It takes some time for some of the water reductions to actually start impacting landscapes. And I think some of you might have noticed already some of those impacts in parks. So we want to communicate that to the community. The aquatic park and the maintenance staff have teamed up and are now busy with the annual month-long maintenance shutdown of the aquatic park facility for repairs and deep cleaning. That's why we're not meeting at the aquatic park tonight. Staying on top of repairs and maintenance extends the useful life of that asset, as well as maintains the continuity of service to the community, and the deep cleaning, of course, provides a healthier facility for everybody. NCPRD recreation staff just finished a really busy summer of camps, classes, and events. Based on survey responses from parents and campers, 98% were satisfied or better with their summer camp experience. So we collected 660 surveys, 424 were exceptionally satisfied, 154 were very satisfied, and 70 were satisfied. So staff received high marks for the camp experience. In your packets, the NCPRD finance team has provided our fourth quarter financial report for last fiscal year, 2024-25. If you have any questions, feel welcome to contact me. And please take a look at those reports. They're pretty detailed, and I think they'll give you a good understanding of where we stand financially. Finance is also recruiting for candidates to fill 2 budget committee positions. The NCPRD Budget Committee typically meets about 3 times a year, as well as participates in the May budget approval process alongside NCPRD board members. The recruitment closes on October 15th. So if you're interested, please take a look at the NCPRD website. On September 25th, staff will request board approval of a supplemental budget for the current fiscal year. That's essentially a modification to the current fiscal year budget. No additional funds are actually being allocated to projects or programs. Instead, staff are proposing to move unused funds that were allocated to specific work activities for last fiscal year to the current fiscal year because completion of the work was delayed. And as per usual, the board report will be shared with you in advance of board consideration. Jessica sends those out every Thursday to you. Please feel welcome to reach out if you have any questions. Also, as noted in your packet, the marketing and communications team has launched NCPRD's new and approved website. It was a pretty heavy lift for our tiny team. And as you can imagine, with cybersecurity and all of the other complications, we are still working through a few improvements. So please let us know if you identify any areas for improvement, any bugs or whatnot. Planning staff are continuing efforts to secure grant funding for the park at the Jennings Lodge campus to further reduce reliance on system development charge funds, as well as eliminate all use of general funds. Staff have already secured 1.8 million in grants, and the work to secure more grants is currently happening. So I hope to report back to you soon about additional funding. Also in August, staff offered to meet with each DAC member, actually that was Aaron and myself, to discuss their input on the draft system plan and strategies were identified to integrate DAC and community member feedback into the final plan. Of course, we will be discussing that tonight, but I just wanted to highlight that there was a lot of work to meet with each individual DAC member, and I appreciate the time that DAC members spent with us. Lastly, the NCPRD board hosted a quarterly meeting at the aquatic park on July 30th. And thank you to the board and to the DAC members that attended. At this meeting, the board approved the name of the park and building at the Concord property, which is now officially Concord Park and Community Center. The board also directed staff to prepare a proposal for board consideration to investigate options for seeking additional general fund revenue. That proposal will be presented to the board later this fall. More details are to come. I have a few events to announce. This coming weekend on September 13th, here at North Clackamas Park, we are going to host the annual Fiesta Latina from noon to 4. Please check our website for additional information. On September 27th, NCPRD will host a cleanup here at North Clackamas Park to support the Camas Bloom next year from 10 to noon, excuse me. On October 18th, we are going to host our grand opening celebration of the Concord Park and Community Center and the Oak Grove Library from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. So I really hope everybody will mark their calendars and come out for that. That is going to be a great opportunity to see that campus and celebrate both the library, community center, and the park opening. On October 25th, NCPRD will host its first major event at the Concord Community Center, the Boo Bash Carnival, from 4:30 to 7. And then the last item for announcements is October 29th is our next quarterly board meeting at 6 p.m. And we think that might be held at Concord. We just have to confirm that.
5 or 6.
6 p.m. Now some quick thank yous. Thank you to the Jennings Lodge Community Planning Organization for inviting NCPRD to their annual picnic at the Oregon City School District Jennings Lodge campus. I attended and I really enjoyed talking with neighbors about the future park at that location. So thank you. And thank you to staff for organizing and leading a tour of NCPRD's newest property acquisition located at 70th and Monroe. So thank you to the DAC members that attended. We hope to provide more opportunities for DAC members to engage with each other and to see more NCPRD assets outside of this meeting. So stay tuned for more of that. And then lastly, tonight after this meeting, you may have seen Jessica's note by email. We are going to host a tour of this facility since you all are here. So this concludes my direct report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So next on the agenda is public comment. So we're now taking public comments. I have 2 of them. Let's see, let me skim through here. If you are online and would like to make it, okay, there's no one online there. Please begin your comment by stating your name and your NCPRD sub area or address. Also, so people know, you could email submissions for public comment to dac@ncprd.com. Any comments will be accepted as part of the public record. However, we will not be reading them at the meeting due to time constraints. And so if I can have Valerie Chapman and Thelma Hagenmiller come forward for comments. And it's 3 minutes, but may I ask who times that?
Try.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Valerie Chapman and I live in sub-area 2. So thank you for letting me be here to speak with you tonight. I feel kind of excited about it. I'm actually here tonight representing the Friends of Oak Grove Community Council, which is a registered nonprofit. The Friends are sponsoring the Heart of the Community campaign, which is a campaign to raise funds for the Concord Community Center. After we heard that there was problem with funding and we wanted to make sure that the drop-in center program was able to run not just till the end of 26, but in 26, 27, we began working on this campaign. And we are the Friends of Oak Grove Community Council, but we are running this campaign for the benefit of all the area residents, and we have reached out to everyone that we can think of, and there are probably more people to let them know that this is an event for everyone. Our kickoff event will be on October 11th from 5 to 7:30 p.m. at the Concord Center. There will be sneak preview tours of the library, the park, and the community center. There will be entertainment provided by the New Century Players and music by Howard Wade and the Free Range Humans. Hospitality will be provided along with an opportunity, of course, for people to give more to the campaign. So we are saying that every community needs a heart center where the community can come together to meet and plan, to learn, to play and celebrate together. Every ticket that we sell to this event will bring us closer to achieving our goal. The goal would be to keep the heart of our community beating. Tickets will be $50. All money raised will go to the community center. I have postcards for all of you. I'm going to give you, it's got a handy dandy QR code on it that will take you right to the place where you can buy tickets. Also, I just want to say that we will be needing volunteers to help with the event. And I'm on the board of the Friends, but my friend Mark Elliott is also on the board. So and you can talk to either one of us about that. So I'm going to leave you our postcards, and I have more for people, but I thank you for letting me talk about things.
Thank you very much. So Thelma, you're up.
Hi, my name is Thelma Hagan Miller. I'm in sub-area 2. I'm here to talk tonight about an issue that has come up on the trolley trail, which is the North Clackamas Parks and Rec District facility. And the Friends of the Trolley Trail, which is a disorganization, not a 501c3 or anything like that, had a meeting a year ago, and some signs were put up on the trolley trail. However, what our long-range plan is to have the flashing signs that tell you what speed you're going, because our big problem is e-bikes on the trolley trail, and they're traveling 40 miles an hour on the trail, and dogs and people and stuff like that are on the trail. And that was an issue that was discussed a year ago. So I've done some investigation into that issue and found out that in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, they also identified this issue down there because they have so many tourists that rent e-bikes down there. And so they put up these flashing signs that tell you what speed you're going. So if you were on an e-bike, it would give you your speed, and then underneath it, what the suggested speed is. We can't put a speed on the trolley trail because there's no way to enforce it. So our suggested speed right now is like 15 miles an hour instead of 40 miles an hour that the e-bikes travel. And so I'm in the process of contacting Scott Holscher to find out what the first one of these flashing signs would cost us to put up on the trail. And the Friends of the Trolley Trail do have money in the bank to help provide our first sign. So we're not asking North Clackamas Parks and Rec District for anything right now. And I figure that once we get the first sign up, we can go to the TDC, Tourism Development Council, and ask for a matching grant for the next sign. So that's all I'm doing, is sharing information on what the Friends of the Trolley Trail are doing. Any questions? Yeah, Grover.
I actually have a comment. It's also not, on the Gold Gate Bridge, they have those same, except they do have a speed limit and they do, and they do work to enforce. So it's not a new thing, and I'm glad you're doing it. It's just that gives you another place that is doing it, the Golden Gate Bridge.
What's their speed limit that they put?
I can't, it was a long time ago that I was there, but I was impressed that they added up and they did say they were gonna, that they enforced it, but just knowing that it's there. Who knows? I mean, we drive down the road all the time with speed limits listed in, sometimes we
Yeah.
get caught and
Well, the
sometimes we
word
don't.
suggested.
I appreciate that, wasn't trying to change that, just letting you know it
I would
is,
appreciate you looking into for me
Okay.
what the speed that they have on the
be happy to do that.
Golden Gate Bridge.
Okay, thank you very much for bringing that to our attention.
Sure enough.
With no more cards and no raised hands, comments are now closed. We will be opening comments again after the system plan presentation. So if you would like to make comments at that time, I believe there are cards to fill out for that. Okay. So DAC has been involved with the work of the system plan for over a year and a half. Members have been given specific opportunities over the last few months to review the draft plan, to submit detailed written comments, and as Director Selly said, to meet individually and in small groups with NCPRD staff. This has allowed us to share our ideas and hopes for what this plan could mean to our district over the next 20 years. So at this time, I would like to turn the meeting over to Director Reed.
Change of perspective. Thank you so much for the introduction, Sheila. Again, I'm Erin Riom. I'm the Planning and Development Director for NCPRD, and I'm also the project lead for the system plan. And I am very excited to be here with you all this evening to talk about this really exciting milestone in the project. As Sheila mentioned, we've been working on this project since January of 2024. This has been very much a collaborative effort across the consultant team, staff, the DAC, and the broader public. And this is an important milestone, not just for this project, but for the district, because the system plan is really the roadmap for district decision-making. And the last approved system plan was in 2004, so over 20 years ago. So this has been kind of a long time in the making and very much overdue. So since the kickoff of this project in January 2024, we have come to the DAC between the consultant team and staff 8 times. Tonight makes 9 to provide updates, to have conversations about the development of the content that's in the plan. Also, just digging back into the memory banks a little bit, I met with many of you one-on-one at the very beginning of the project to talk through project goals. Also to get a better understanding of the community network that really helped to shape our outreach for this project and the community engagement strategy that we deployed. In addition to that, DAC members were invited to participate in park audits last summer as community navigators doing site assessments of each of our parks and facilities, as well as participating in our community engagement and tabling events. So I wanted to take a moment to just pause and say thank you. That required a lot of time, effort, and energy from all of you who are already volunteering your time to be here. And it really did truly help shape the plan. Both the plan and the process are better for all of that participation. So thank you very much. In addition to all of that, we also, as both Sheila mentioned and Kia had mentioned this evening, recently collected detailed comments from DAC members on the system plan draft. And then for those interested, met with individuals to discuss those comments. So that's part of what we're going to be reviewing with you all this evening. As you might imagine, we received a wide range of different types of comments. Some of them were detailed wordsmithing and language choices. Some of them were about the overall structure of the document and its length. Some of them pertain to the recommendations that are in the plan and project sequencing. You might also imagine that a lot of those comments came in conflict with one another. There are a lot of different perspectives out there, particularly in a district with limited resources and a pretty expansive geography. So a lot of different ideas for how those limited resources need to be used. And I'm very, very thankful that through the course of this project, we have had a great consultant team with Design Workshop to help provide national best practices and really help to inform and lead the process of navigating through all of those different comments, those potentially conflicting tension points as we reach the final stages of this plan and help guide us through some really informed revisions to the plan in these final stages. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Anna Laybourne with Design Workshop. She's joining remotely, so we've got 3 different screens. She's sort of in surround here to walk us through some of the recent feedback that was received on the system plan draft and how the consultant team is proposing to respond to that in the final plan document.
Excellent.
Anna?
Thank you, Erin. Thank you, Erin. I hope in addition to surround, you're seeing the presentation now on your screen as the largest piece and not my face. Is that right? Oh, excellent. Okay, great. Well, our consultant team at Design Workshop and ETM Associates really appreciate having been part of your systems evolution since January of 2024 and the trust you've placed in us in creating a community-driven plan to prepare for its future. So I'll just ask you, allow us to complete this about 15-minute presentation and hold your questions until the end. So the presentation is summarized in this order. We'll cover some of the engagement highlights from this last round of hearing from the community. We will highlight what those review comments were, the key themes we heard. We'll talk about the project sequencing criteria, since that was a main comment we heard within the comments received. And then we will also reflect on the community and DAC feedback together and how it will shape the final plan so you know what to anticipate. And at the end, we'll share what those next steps are for the completion of this plan. So I wanted to share here that over 3,000 participants across surveys, pop-up events, workshops, online tools, and such had all contributed to this plan before we went to this draft document. And that just shows, as a reminder, the excellent amount and quality of community involvement that really shaped those plan contents. So prior to that June draft sharing, we had really district-wide involvement, really extensive efforts that reached people who had not participated previously became very well involved. We had a lot of really positive feedback about that. So with that community feedback, we used to really shape the system plan. You'll see throughout the plan how we're sharing the reflection on what did we hear, what were the priorities from the community, what were the survey results, how did we hear from people through a variety of needs about their needs and desires. That informed the needs assessment, the framework refinement of the plan that they saw and reviewed and provided comments. And now finally, this last engagement window is the draft plan review. So we really want to reflect on the robustness of that previous engagement. And we would expect at this late stage in the plan document creation, we would not make a drastic change from what had been shared previously unless there's really something that comes up as an error or a useful refinement to the plan. So that comment period for this last round on the draft plan was over a month long and it ran from June through July. With that, there was also outreach at pop-up events and sharing the survey out to people, really widely advertising it to say, we would love you to complete this questionnaire and let us know what you think of the draft plan. Please review it, let us know. And we received 216 responses to that. That's our typical response rate at this stage in the process when it's been a really successful engagement previously. Many people don't comment because they say, great, I see my ideas are reflected here. I appreciate being involved earlier. They trust that the input they provided is going to be used in the plan. So they don't provide a response necessarily at this end draft review stage. But with that, we did get a decent response rate to understand how people felt about the plan document. Here on the screen, you can see that level of satisfaction with the plan overall. And we did dissect those responses, and the dissatisfied comments primarily focused on people's desire to advocate for one property in particular. And I'll share more findings about that in a moment. But this gives us a lot of confidence that we're hearing from people that there's levels of satisfaction with this plan, and there were areas that they suggested for improvement to it that helps us really guide this. So with that, we have a number of write-in comments that were received that help us understand the takeaways of what people liked and didn't like. And one thing that was interesting to note is that many of the folks, 65%, who responded to this questionnaire had not previously contributed to the plan. So they may have just been becoming aware of it through the draft plan sharing and not informed those previous steps of the survey and such. One thing we wanted to note here is that we re-asked a question that we had also asked in the community survey, you might recall a while ago, just to test out again how people felt about, after they read the draft plan, would they support pursuing additional funding to implement the plan's big vision items. And this really aligns with the support expressed in the community survey of a great deal of support for wanting additional funding for parks, and that they would like to understand that further. That 64% said yes, 27% said maybe. A few of the things we wanted to just share with you about the common themes we noticed in the comments here. There was a great deal of appreciation for district-wide planning for improvements. There was a appreciation also for the comprehensiveness of the work and the proactive long-term thinking that was represented in this plan. There was a lot of resonance that people had for the plan themes. They commented quite frequently about which ones they liked, which ones they really supported. It made us say that those are ones we certainly should be keeping within this plan. They appreciated the clear priorities and quick wins that were expressed. And there was also an appreciation of the just overall transparency about the funding challenges that the district faces. In addition, the geographic spread of investments across the district was represented in many of the write-in comments about their interest in why this plan is a success. Some of the common changes that were suggested here, the one I mentioned previously about the desire to advocate for one particular property, the Milwaukee Bay Park right now in the plan is showing up as a midterm priority project. There was a lot of advocating for moving that to the short-term priority list. And we'll talk about the criteria in a moment of why that remains as a midterm priority list item. But that was a key component of this. In fact, in looking at the comments received, those total comments requesting this prioritization change was about 43% of the respondents to the survey indicated that that was the main reason that they were commenting on this draft plan and what they'd like to see changed. The other comments were about making the document shorter and more approachable, which is in a little bit of contrast to many of the other comments we saw about people desiring a very comprehensive plan. They liked the robustness, and they commented on much of the content that they appreciated within the plan. But that was one that we heard fairly consistently about some common changes. And then there was another one about stressing the importance of accessibility and ADA improvements that appeared more than a few times within the comments. So I wanted to remind about the projecting sequencing criteria. So this is that near-term, midterm, long-term, and the action plan at the end of the document, and also summarized in the beginning of the plan. So we're going to add a statement about the timing of this, because we expect even with these criteria, this is the content we knew at the time of the plan that we could evaluate those priorities based off of. And things like funding availability, staff resources, partnerships, legal commitments, those can all shift and change over time. This plan is not expected to be 100% accurate and perfect forever. it will need to have some reflection going forward, and you need flexibility to say, we might be able to move something up, or another thing might need to move back in the sequencing. So we'll add in a little bit more description about that aspect of this is not set in stone. Rather, this will be something that as you move forward annually and evaluate your resources, you will likely move some things around and may be able to take on some things sooner. What we heard from the DAC comments was concern about the executive summary title and format, desire for the mission statement to reflect the future, and desire for clear project prioritization explanation. So that's where that statement I just mentioned will bring into it and further express that piece of how did those items end up on that list in different places, and where did we check those boxes of is it within the current funding or is it not? So overall, we wanted to thank the DAC members for your great contributions for this plan over the long trajectory of 9 meetings with you all, and a lot of review and other contributions and engaging with the community that we really appreciated with it. So I just wanted to recognize that in addition to your comments and many of your really diligent review of the draft document. So that's a summary of your comments. And I just wanted to also share the summary of how we'll be addressing those within the final plan for adoption. A couple of things here is that we'll create an independent plan summary document for a shorter read. So it'll be outside of this current PDF, there'll be a independent document you can open and review. We'll also develop a 2-pager, really just highlights of the plan that for someone who is even less attention span, or you just need to get a message in front of them quickly, you'll have those talking points to use. The revised mission statement is within this plan now that from the DAC's input. There's reference to tree plantings and the goals and quick wins that was brought up as a comment. And we're clarifying the sequencing in resource funding, independent and board directed, around those ideas about the criteria for evaluating the priority of sequencing. We're going to clarify about accessibility improvements and for short-term projects, and then clarify that a volunteer coordinator will be needed to expand volunteer efforts. We added a short-term action to continue support for DAC Community Engagement Subcommittee. So those are some highlights of the key things you'll see in this next plan, which that draft plan is set, revisions are well underway, and we will be submitting the final plan to the board for adoption in the fall of 2025 is the plan here, which we're nearly there. So wrapping that up. So thank you for your time and efforts in contributing to this plan, and it's been a pleasure. I appreciate your time.
Okay, so thank you so much for that presentation. At this time, I'm going to ask, do any DAC members have any clarifying questions for design workshop about how they incorporated the feedback? Oh, yes.
I just want to say, I think they did a great job integrating the feedback, at least the feedback that I was aware of.
Okay, yeah, and I would agree with that. You know, I really feel like we were heard with our comments that we made. Okay, so did you have a comment to make?
Yeah, just that, you know, some of us were hoping to see a revision to the draft before it went to the final. And maybe Aaron, you want to speak to that, why we're not seeing it and when we might see it?
Yeah, absolutely. So the current contract for design workshop includes one final plan document, not a final and then a final, but one final plan. So in order to have an opportunity to present out to you all the feedback that was received, the proposed revisions before everything is finalized, we wanted to bring that to you all this evening. And then based on the presentation tonight, the conversation that happens, design workshop will generate a final plan that will then go to the board for their review and adoption. And at that point, when it goes into the board packet, it will be available for the DAC or other members of the public to review as well, and to provide any public testimony on at that board session. The date on that is still TBD. We're still working on that. So stay tuned for more details on when that will occur.
And so if I could follow up, if, when that's published, that would be published prior to it being presented to the board of directors for final approval, right?
Yes.
And so what opportunities will the DAC members and members of the public have to comment on that, to have that considered as a part of the final approval system, process?
Yeah, so once the final plan goes into the board packet and gets published in a public record, as part of that packet, the next opportunity for public or DAC comment would be at that board review meeting. There would be an opportunity for public testimony there.
And we would be able to also submit written
Yes.
testimony
Yes.
As well, okay?
Yes, absolutely.
But we'll only have 1 week. That's 1 week, right?
I don't
We
know.
don't have the date yet.
The
We're,
board meeting?
yes, we're still working out this specific date. We're hoping that it's sometime in October, but we don't have the exact date established. And I did also just want to, I don't know if anybody knows that Mayor Beatty has, had placard up for a bit, so I just wanted to flag that.
I'm sorry.
Vice Chair. Yeah, just, yeah, I do want people to understand the packet goes out a week before the meeting, so that's not a lot of time to
Well,
review it,
just-
document this extensive.
And if
So-
you like, I do have some slides prepared that are a little bit more background if you can see more specifics of how we are planning to edit. The ones that I highlighted, I could review those if you'd like. The other thing I would suggest is when this does go before the board for final approval, you want it supported. You want them to say, yep, thumbs up, we want to push this forward. I have found at times that if a committee that was responsible for seeing the plan through is submitting a bunch of independent comments about changes they'd like to see, that can kind of create a understanding that maybe there isn't that background of support. And so I would just suggest that you consider that in your process of if you believe there's a need to comment one more time about the contents of the plan, rather than the support you have in the creation of the plan and what it will represent for you going forward to use it.
One other quick note, the draft that was published on the website that went out for you all to review, for you to provide detailed page by page comments on, and to meet with myself and Director Sully to discuss, was probably 95% there. There are not an enormous amount of big changes that are going to be made, and the significant changes that are going to be made to the plan are what Anna just ran through in this list. And it's really fine tuning some refinement based on the comments that were received from the public and from members of the DAC around this table.
Mayor Beatty?
So I guess you asked for clarifying questions, and I'll start there and not make comments. So one question I had was, and I apologize that I don't have my laptop. After I asked Jessica about there being Wi-Fi here, I left my laptop on, which is dumb, but, in the project priority list, in the short-term projects, there were a couple of projects, North Clackamas Park being one. There were some things I expected to see like Jennings Lodge, but there were a couple of parks that came up there, North Clackamas being one, and I can't remember what the other one was. But I was surprised to see them prioritized, and I didn't find anything in the appendices that explained really why. And explained what kind of improvements were being proposed for those parks. So I'd like to understand that, how those two rose to the short term and what is being proposed for those parks.
Okay, so who is best to speak to that?
Anna, do you want to take a first stab at that, and then I can follow up?
Pulling up the list so I know which ones you're speaking about. So the ones under the short-term list that we had under the capital project sequencing that we we're highlighting were the Aquatic Park Phase 1 roof replacement, North Clackamas Park improvements, the Risley Park improvements, Oak Bluff Trail improvements, new park at Jennings Lodge campus, new park at Justice property, and new phase 1 park at 70th Monroe property. Those were the 7 that were listed as highlights of the capital improvement projects.
Right, and so the 2 that were surprises to me were North Clackamas Park and Risley Park. They're not anything we've ever talked about in this group. There's never been any presentation in this group about what's needed or wanted there. I'm sure both could benefit from improvements. Most of our parks could. But can you tell us what it is that is, why they rose to the top and what it is that is planned there?
So I can jump in on this a bit. So what we, with the guidance of the consultant team, we're trying to do in this list, while we would have loved to put everything in the short-term bucket, right? We did have to make some tough decisions on what went into the short-term, mid-term, and long-term, just based on limited resources. So one of the key criteria that we used to do that was known capital repair and replace needs. So which of our parks have aging infrastructure and equipment that we know needs to be replaced short term, and what can wait a little bit longer? So for some of the parks that you just referenced, for North Clackamas Park, for Risley, we've got aging equipment and infrastructure that really needs to be addressed. So we're not talking about a major overhaul of the entire park. We're really talking about making those kind of capital repair and replace improvements that have been long needed part of our project sequencing. Does that help?
It helps, but I feel like, and maybe I will say this about I think the plan document is great. I think the appendices are a hot mess. And they're really hard to work your way through. They're really hard to find anything in. I think they need a better table of contents, but is that analysis somewhere in those appendices? I didn't find it, but maybe it's there. Because one of them is 300 pages.
Mayor Bailey, are you asking for like a clear rationale for
Yeah.
prioritization?
Where's if something is on the high priority list, the near-term priority list, it seems like there should be some supporting documentation. Where is that?
Erin, are you able to speak to the consultant?
Yeah, I'm pulling up, for example, the conditions map would be one of those. And it's also partly about, are they small investments? And so one of the things is this conditions map was a really clear one. And then we also had those evaluations that many of you participate in evaluating the parks and are they serving folks? So I'll just, hold on one moment. Let me see if this changes your view. So it is in the plan document rather than the appendix of those different components that contribute to all those items that we've reflected on previously that are part of that evaluation of what makes it on the criteria list. So capital repair and replacement needs was one of them. And then also, how often it's used, if it's within one of those priority investment areas and help spread the geographic investments of what's happened. And then those condition assessments of the quality and condition of those amenities. So just disappeared. Let me go back to see. Does this document, do you now see the conditions map appearing on top on your screen?
Yes.
Okay, there we go. So you can see like for Risley Park, that was one that was rated in fair condition overall, but there are a number of amenities within it that are ones that were considered of, is it really serving? And I think if you wanted on that, particularly to give focus onto that list of parks and what do they include and not include that you'd be thinking to replace and improve, I think we could follow up with that of what it entails for those parks, because they may not have been ones you've discussed before, but they were ones on the staff's mind of top priorities to address.
Okay, and Josh and Jeanette, my apologies. Are your comments having to do with Mayor Beatty's comment? No. Okay, Kia, is yours having to do with Mayor? Okay,
Mine
yours,
is.
okay,
Mine
so
is.
my apologies, but I'm gonna go ahead and call on Director Selly.
Thank you. Sorry to jump ahead. So I think it's really important to consider the project sequencing criteria. So there are multiple inputs that helped us get to these short, mid-term, and long-term lists. And staff have been working with the consulting team for many months, so we've had the benefit of some of the nuances, frankly, that have been critical in kind of sifting and sorting through many priorities within the district. I think it's really important to note that when we look at these different lists, short, mid, and long term, we can move projects, we can prioritize projects if we get everything done in the short term and we have opportunity for more work in terms of staff capacity or capital resources, we can move projects from midterm to short term. But the short term really represents, again, those inputs from the project sequencing criteria. And I don't want to, we don't have time tonight, and frankly, the reason why we haven't talked about each individual park on all of these lists is just because of the limitation of time. Even though we've visited with the DAC 9 times now, there isn't enough time for us to go really deep on each of these projects or parks rather. But a great example at North Clackamas Park, because I received the emails, is it's our only dog park, fenced dog park in the district. And I think we all know that dogs are very popular, and as more people move into smaller properties or mixed, more multifamily type living, there's going to be more demand on off-leash dog areas. That off-leash dog area right now is in a floodplain. And so not only should it not be there, but also our chips, the chips that basically keep that surface, that mud surface, sort of playable for the dogs, it all washes away. And those chips are very expensive. So there's a huge maintenance input that is required. And there's also a very low, a low satisfaction rate from our dog owners that are using that. And we oftentimes even see dog owners use the park as an off-leash dog area, which creates conflicts, safety conflicts between park users and dogs. So as staff, we have some inputs that you all aren't privy to just because we don't have the time to share all of this information with you. But at North Clackamas Park, I would say that is really an important improvement, is that off-leash dog area. We also have other aging infrastructure here, and this is a very heavily used park. It's a regional community park, but it's also a neighborhood park for so many people. So
So can I just ask?
Sure.
I mean, what you say makes perfect sense to me. I mean, I know that the dog park could use attention. But this project sequencing criteria, so just last night, Milwaukee City Council had a similar conversation about criteria for prioritizing our CIP projects, sidewalk and street CIP projects. Is there a chart where you go through these? Is there something in the appendices that I just missed where you break them down, you analyze them by these criteria?
Not item by item, and there's a good reason for that, is that this will constantly be changing. If we document that and put it in a form that people come back to, they will have that expectation. And many of these aspects are in fluctuation. They will be. It's that they have opportunities, that you may have something that becomes defunct. I just want to represent that, if it's saying that there's an improvement to a park, that it doesn't mean it's a major master plan and a really considerable project. We took the time to evaluate what's within your current budget, which we know there are such limitations on it. There's not much that can move forward, and be very thoughtful about that cost benefit of those investments. What Kia was sharing about this, creating long-term sustainability of your system, of it addressing some maintenance needs that if you address them, will have a longer staying power for those facilities. We looked at those cost benefits. And so that's a lot of nuance for a very small component of this plan, which is saying what could be a near-term priority 0 to 3 years. So those are long periods of time that many things could change.
And to contrast it with the exercise of scoring hardscape that is really apples to apples. We have a lot of apples to
Yes.
oranges and some other vegetables here. And so it's really nuanced. And I would also say too, we also made an effort to try to spread the investments over the district. So try to be equitable. I think that in some areas of some sub areas, and you all have your opinions about which sub areas need the most investment, but there's some sub areas where we could spend all of our investment for the next 5 to 8 years, or and could generate a rationale for that, because some areas of the district have not seen investment for a very long time. However, we know that we need to serve the entire district, and really to be serving all taxpayers, we want to be equitable to all sub areas. So there's that in the mix too, which isn't, again, we can't assign a number to it or score to it. It's more qualitative than quantitative.
Okay, Josh, did you still want to make a comment?
Sheila, one more time. So I want to go back to Mayor Beatty to make sure that their question has actually been answered.
I think I've done it.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Since time was brought up, I'll just submit my comment writing.
Jeanette?
Before, point of information, this item is until 6:45. And
Yeah, we're ahead of schedule.
we're ahead of schedule.
Okay, does that include public comment though?
Yeah, we already did public comment.
No, we're gonna do, we want to do public comment about the
On the
system
system
plan.
plan.
Yeah.
Okay, I'd like to hold my question, defer to the director's office.
Oh. I need to get better at looking at these name tags.
So, I don't know which one, my original plan was ask consultant Anna, regarding the survey, and the question, I saw how the question was worded, but there was one where it said, should the district pursue funding for parks, right? And I just wonder if there's any other questions that dig a little bit deeper into whether or not people want us to pursue other funds, or are perhaps willing to contribute into an increase in the tax rate. Is there anything that would kind of lend one to get a sense of the pulse of the community for an increase, if there was one, a funding, a permit?
Yeah, this of course was just a questionnaire about the draft plan and not the robust survey that we did earlier in the process, where we did ask a question about support for funding there as well. That would be the one where the results I would lean on. And you might remember that was even more favorable of high level support for additional funding. We did not in that survey ask about the form or the rate of funding that would be supported, because that really should be a question you get an answer to next when you know the type of improvements that are desired. You can establish a rate, and also you know that you're going to put something on a ballot, and you know the type of funding. That's the stage that you would ask you do more of a polling effort to understand the type of support you'd see. But I'm trying to go back to our exact rate that was in our survey findings on this, that was shared in the plan. From that question, I may need a moment to pull that up in the survey, but that's a really key one, that it was, I recall, well over 65% in that survey, and that's the one I would rely on. And in our experience in doing this work throughout the country, really any response above 65% of the survey in this type of process of hearing from people even before projects are really clearly defined of this is what you would get if you were to say increase the funding from different sources. That's a really key indicator that this is something you should pursue. The plan does include a variety of different ways that you could seek additional funding, including grant opportunities and such, but the ones that would come before a voting source would be one that would need to be focused on some other key aspects of sharing with them what they would get out of this increase. Does that answer what you were looking for there, or would you like me to find the one from the previous survey?
But no, you did great. Thank you. That's really what I was looking for. That's all I need. My second question is Kia. Kia, when we started this process a long time ago, we were gonna do the systems plan based on, with and without Milwaukee there. So the data was disaggregated,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Could you share what you shared with myself, Commissioner, or Mayor Beatty and others with regard to those comments about the large number of percentage of people that commented about what Bay Park? Could you just share to the group? those numbers?
Sure, and I'll ask that Erin support me in terms of exact numbers, because I know she has those at her fingertips. When we received data, you're talking about the most recent data from the draft plan that I was briefing you on. So when we received data on based on the draft plan and looked at that data in terms of individuals who identified as living in Milwaukee versus individuals that identified as living in the unincorporated area, we saw that the unincorporated area residents did not prioritize Milwaukee Bay Park Phase 3, but Milwaukee residents did. So we have to be really careful about saying that the entire district, because NCPRD serves a district of over 100,000 people, the city of Milwaukee represents about 18% of the total district. We have to just be careful about saying that Milwaukee Bay Park Phase 3 is the highest priority in terms of a capital improvement project for the district, because in actuality, we really saw that kind of prioritization come from those individuals in Milwaukee.
Okay, thank you. So my comment I want to make, and that is I really appreciate the consultant work in the way, the fact that you're all in a different part of the country and it's really not biased or blemished with politics. You're taking the raw data. You did a lot of public outreach. You know, I too was surprised by over the short term, the midterm, the long term. And so the story I want to tell here is the way I was raised. Oldest of 7 kids, always made sure that the kids that were the hungriest or the most needy in my family, and also the families that my mom took care of, that they were the ones that got fed first, get taken care of first, the most needy. So when I moved into my property where I live today, the closest park to me was Bunnell Park. I don't know if anyone, raise your hand if you know where Bunnell Park is. I've been on Bunnell Park, okay? Does anyone think that that park has any needs? Okay. There are 2 amenities on the park.
Anything?
There are 2 amenities. There's a bench and there's a garbage can. That's it. It's not irrigated. It's been there a long time. And there's a street in downtown Oak Grove called Park Entrance. And Park Entrance leads to Bunnell Park. And when I first drove, and I do take people, fellow commissioners, and I pull up in front of that park and they say, "This is a park?" Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. So, you know, I was surprised that it's midterm based on need. But there again, I also understood what staff explained. So, you know, there are needs and there are wants. And I think needs, you know, ought to be prioritized, but I would hate to see any changes really take place here without really the community being involved. If we really feel that's great, not just us, and I would hate to see things being moved politically. But you know, what I would, you know, what I maybe align with a little bit, with Mayor Beatty is curiosity as to some of the rationale they want. Are they needs, is it maintenance, is it low cost, high cost, is it doable, right? Because we don't have much funding. There's not much funding to do all, so we can't prioritize a huge multi-million-dollar project. We don't have multi-millions of dollars in the bank. So therefore, it seems to me that the low-hanging fruit obviously are the smaller ones, that maybe we can adjust and move. But a lot said, but I just like to get a better idea of are they needs or they wants. Thank you.
Okay, Jeanette.
Yeah, thank you. I would like to make a motion that we, but what I'd like to do before that, Chair Shaw, is ask, should we hear public comment
Before any motion.
Okay,
Okay.
so I will put my flag down and wait. And
May I ask, I don't, Josh,
Oh, no,
You're fine.
I'll submit it in writing.
Okay.
It's fine.
I don't have any cards, but can I ask how many people are here to speak about the system plan? Are there any people here to speak about the system plan? Oh, Okay, we've got one. All right, so let me go through this. I will now open the second public comment portion of our meeting for comments that are related to the system plan. As a reminder, if you'd like to provide a public comment and are attending in person, please fill out a comment card and turn it into me. That's okay. Oh, do you have one? Okay, it's okay if you don't. Let's see here. If you'd like to provide a public comment and are attending virtually, please select the raise hand feature and we'll call on you after the in-person comments in the order received. You have 3 minutes to testify, and so we ask that your comments be respectful to all. And if you can begin your comment with your name and your sub area. So come on back. Or come on up. Okay, and while you're coming, people may also submit email for public comment to dac@ncprd.com, and these will be accepted as part of the public record. However, we won't be reading them at the meeting due to time constraints.
So my name is Tina Pa, it's a regular system plan. Same question around what's the rationale for some people in short term versus long term. The main thing is when something got short term, we assume that we have some people voted for it. But it looks like the new park, how can it be voted on by anybody because we don't know it was there. And of course, I'm also on the North Park Foundation and we do a lot of tabling. And there's a lot of people that don't live in Milwaukee that wanted that park. So I'm very curious, why did they come up with the idea that Milwaukee Bay Park is only wanted by Milwaukee residents and nobody else? And especially when it's used by everybody around the area, people from Selwood, people from Oak Grove, I know they all come and use the park all the time. So very curious why they say it's Milwaukee that wants that park view.
Well, my understanding is that when the data comes in, when the comments come in, the people are identifying themselves by where they are.
We can actually disaggregate it, isn't it by ISP?
It's actually based on whether they have identified as a city of Milwaukee resident or an unincorporated resident. So they self-identify as one or the other.
So as the comments come in, they can be separated out. And so it's the people in the unincorporated areas in sub areas 1 through 4, that was not a priority for them, but people in sub area 5, the city of Milwaukee, it was.
And this is just based on the community input.
Yeah.
It was just on the draft plan review. And so with that, it doesn't represent what we heard in the other form of the survey earlier, which was a robust survey with really high participation rates and hearing from all parts of the district. This was really from those who chose to comment on the draft plan. And with those, there was about, I would just repeat that it wasn't everyone. It was those that mentioned in their comment, they wrote in, I would like to move Milwaukee Bay Park from medium-term time frame for prioritization to short-term, that they were advocating for it. It was about 43% of the participants in the survey indicated that in that comment questionnaire, and with that, it was only 21 people that were in the unincorporated area that made that type of comment, whereas for those that identified themselves as Milwaukee residents, it was 70 of those comments.
So looking at the way the map showed me the survey after the list of projects came up, then people vote around it. So we're not doing that, we're actually doing the reverse. We did the voting on what's going to happen. We don't know what we vote for. And I'm saying.
And
Right.
the metro process is a very different process. This process was based on both community feedback and a really robust data-driven assessment process, because in addition to what community members are interested in, we also know that there's just a lot of aging equipment and infrastructure across the entirety of the district that needs to be addressed. And we really need to be maintaining that kind of regardless of community votes. We did hear very clearly through our initial survey that maintaining what we have is very, very important to the community. That ranked very, very highly. So it does tie directly into that. In terms of where those prioritization efforts go, as Kia mentioned, we have worked very diligently with the maintenance and operations team from NCPRD to understand exactly where those efforts are most needed sooner. And that helped to inform which of those improvement projects in particular fell into which of those buckets.
I can see that for existing park, the power company parks, they're not even in, helping with maintenance, because you're actually creating more maintenance.
So I can speak to that. We have some parts of the district that are completely park deficient. So if we were to look at like the park at Jennings Lodge campus or the park at the Justice property that is east of I-205, one might argue that Milwaukee Bay Park, while it doesn't have the features that Phase 3 proposed to add, those other areas don't have a park at all. So that's some of it too, is trying to provide park access to more residents of the district. So that's another initiative too for the new parks. And also I would add too that, for example, the park at Jennings Lodge campus, that design has been underway for quite some time. The expectation actually is to start construction next spring. So actually stopping that project, shelving it and moving it to mid or long term, particularly when it's in a park deficient area, would not make sense. So there were some other decisions at play there too. That's why it's difficult to quantitatively talk about inputs that led us scientifically to creating these lists, because there are many inputs and they have many different ranges of impacts.
So some of the comment that came up in the paper, so why don't we just do the Phase 3 to Phase 3, 4, 5, 6, instead of doing Milwaukee Bay Park 1, that should do some of the more important stuff, like making the trail more ADA accessible for the senior, for the disabled. And how come that did not happen? So how can we break up Milwaukee Bay Park into multiple projects instead of one big?
Well, that's a potential strategy for sure. So if for example, we got through the short-term list and then we were looking at Milwaukee Bay Park Phase 3, but we didn't have the resources, certainly you could phase some of the improvements so that you end up with a portion of Milwaukee Bay Park Phase 3. Maybe it's Phase 3A.
And to build off that, if I may, it's an important distinction to understand the purpose of this plan. This plan is intended to be a long-term guiding document, but you will have annual decisions about many things. There will be a CIP list and a work plan for the staff that comes before you all and is in your annual packets to evaluate, is there something of an improvement over here or over there that we need to respond to the current needs? Or we have a new opportunity, a new funding partner or such that we can change things around. So this sequencing, we're putting in a distinct statement in this plan to say, this is something that we will need to reevaluate often and determine if there's something we can change in this sequencing. And that will be something that you will be evaluating often enough, at least on an annual basis, that there is some flexibility in this, but we wanted this plan to provide that rigor of helping to communicate why it isn't just an open-ended, we can do everything all at once. There really is some real parameters and a need to prioritize that this plan is working to create for that guiding steps forward.
Okay, maybe a comment like that in the document would help people. So it's not possible, like some changes long term. Okay.
Well, thank you. With no more comment cards and no raised hands, I'm closing public comment and I'm ready to entertain a motion.
Thank you. I move that the DAC recommends approval of the system plan to the Board of Directors as presented this evening, including the revisions discussed on the addressing key themes slide, and that the Board of Directors consider project sequencing.
Is there a second?
What was that last?
And that
Board of Directors consider project sequencing. I'll shift out of the motion language to motivate. I'm suggesting that to really highlight that this is a Board of Directors decision to approve the system plan. It's certainly in my memory that the last system plan did not get approved by the Board of Directors. That was very detrimental to NCPRD. I have some other motivators for my motion, but I don't remember if that should come before or after a second.
I second.
Okay, is there any discussion?
Okay, I'm gonna jump in with my motivations as a bullet point. If the DAC recommends that we approve the system plan, it means that we're also saying, please keep this on schedule. It affirms that we say that the public outreach was robust and broad, as was summarized by Design Workshop. It affirms that we recognize the urgency of getting the approved system plan to our staff at NCPRD and our policymakers. It will also affirm that we want focus on unmet needs in the district. A nod to your story, Director Savas. And it recognizes that we cannot spend more money. I'm sorry, Design Workshop. We love you so much, but we gotta get past the finish line. I'm done.
Any, Robert?
Just a quick question, in the motion, the added comment about
Project sequence.
project sequencing, that's not about approving, that's an addition to just approving the system plan. So this motion is not about just approving the system plan, it is amended to have that added comment, which I don't know why it needs to be in there, that we can approve the system plan or not approve the system plan. I'm in favor of approving it, but I don't understand how that comment fits
Direct
in.
response, are you proposing an amendment?
Are you proposing an amendment?
Okay, I propose a friendly amendment that we just do in fact approve the system plan as has been amended to go forward
Okay,
and
so
without the side comment.
the language without the side comment, and so now does that need to be seconded? Okay, so do we then vote on the amended?
Yes.
Okay, so, Jeanette, can you read the amended motion, please?
Yes, the amended motion is, I move the DAC recommend approval of the system plan to the Board of Directors as presented this evening, including the revisions discussed at tonight's meeting.
Okay, any discussion? All right, those who approve or those in favor, that's right, those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
And Joel on the screen.
6. Okay, those opposed? We have 1. Those abstaining? We have 1. Okay, so good. Let's see. So it's 6, 1, 1. Okay, so the motion passes. Is that right? Okay. Okay, so I'm going to move us on to the next part of our agenda. So the next part of the agenda is individual reports. I'm going to start by saying that we are working with the Milwaukee Community Center Advisory Board, creating a subcommittee to explore possibilities and hopes for what can happen with having now 2 community centers. So I've been working with them, and so we all agree that with cooperation and collaboration, that makes for stronger services and support for our community. Joel Bergman has agreed to chair the subcommittee to get things up and running. So we're hoping to have 2 DAC members, 2 Milwaukee Community Center board members, and then the committee itself will be open for others. But I'm very excited about the possibilities that having 2 community centers can give to the district. And so that will be the task of that subcommittee to explore possibilities. Yes, Carla?
I'd like to volunteer to be on that committee.
Okay. I'm sure Joel heard you right now. Okay, so
had representation, and we also had our chair represented, and there was a lot of good comments. And it is beginning to do what we've been hoping to do all along, which is having a place that people can express their communications about. And in this case, it was parks, but it also included libraries. Anyway, so that's my report, and I encourage others to look for, and I'd be happy to work with anybody who has interest in having community gathering listening sessions, so you can hear from people in your suburbs.
Okay, Mayor Beatty?
I just wanted to mention that, since it is September, we are back, with our twice a month, work parties in 2 Milwaukee parks. We work the second Saturday of every month in Thorn Springs, which is on 37th behind the Planet Fitness, Planet Fitness, and walk across. It's a wetland, and we're always removing vines and picking up trash and other things, and we'll plant more in the winter. And then on the third Saturday of every month, we work on Outback. So both of those are work parties at 9:30 in the morning on Saturday. And we'd love to have more people come out.
Thank you, Mayor Beatty. Other comments? Okay, is there?
I've got 2 minutes. So I wanted to clarify for Sudbury at 2. The Friends of the Elk Grove Community Council was created to fund projects and important things in the community. And of course, this fundraising effort is the first big thing that we're trying to do. I wanted to clarify that the intent is not for Friends to become a long-term support of the Concord Community Center. That there's an intention that this is just a 1 or 2 year thing in order to fill that void, and that there is a hope that another organization will come out of this that will be able to support the community center, similar to the Milwaukee Community Center Foundation. Just that one, make that clarification.
Thank you very much. Is there any further business? Okay, I would like to thank the public participation that we had tonight. It's great to have you all here, and I'd like to thank everybody for their roles. And I'm going to adjourn the meeting at 6:57. Thank you.